boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen around the world. It is once again time for the WADcast. That is your writers, actors, directors podcast, where we talk about all of those things, plus every spot on a set in between, because everybody contributes to make a movie. Whether it's good or bad, everybody's there to contribute, and we talk about it all. We have a pretty good show tonight for you lined up. But before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, I'm Josh, and I'm joined, as always, by the guy from California, Brandon.
I'm not from California.
Yeah, well, for the sake of this show, you are from California. I know you're New Jersey via Florida via California, but you know that takes too long to say, even though I just said it. But whatever. Welcome. It's been a long time, almost a week. Okay, exactly a week.
It is a week, but you know what? It's actually our first show that we've had in over a month now, where it's just been, Josh and Brandon having some alone time.
Yes, quality time is important.
I'm just saying, just the two of us, man. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us, you and I.
Okay, yeah. We'll lead in with that. We have an interesting topic tonight. Why don't you tell the people what we will be, dishing about?
Well, we're going to be talking about movies that have, and this is the only topic, but we'll be talking about movies that have good endings, movies that have bad endings, and overall, like, just what really makes a good ending, as well as what makes a bad ending. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the gist of our show tonight. I'll be honest, everyone. I dropped the ball. I have not really spoken to Josh for this past week to really figure out the show. So this is really something that he introduced to me about like an hour ago. If you've ever seen Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, when they sing and he's streaming his singing like Master Exploder, we just thought this up like 15 minutes ago.
A little behind the curtain stuff there for you. I will tell you,
it's all about. Oh, go ahead.
I will tell you this. What inspired this was, well, I don't know if you've heard, but I've set a goal for myself this year. I'm trying to watch what equates to a movie every day, and today I watched my 60th movie of the year so far. So okay. I'm a little ahead of schedule there. But one of the movies I watched, the ending, I thought, wow, this movie was incredibly mediocre, but that ending, they nailed it, and then decided not to nail it. And that's always a heartbreaker when you watch something and you think, oh, beautiful ending, perfect ending, and then they take it all back in like 3 seconds. And that movie was Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh, okay. I've never seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I've never seen it. It just never really seemed interesting to me.
Well,
I forget the actor's name in Can't Buy Me Love, but I can't stand him. So I've never watched that movie.
Really?
I don't know why. But mind you, I also have my personal gripes with Betty White, so my views are not very popular.
Right. The Betty White thing is a completely unrelated issue.
I'm just saying, it's like it's related in the fact that my admiration for certain actors versus my disdain for others is not popular amongst a lot of people. So I've already come to that. I've already learned to live with that. Don't dig it any further. It took a lot for me to really get to this point of, accepting myself as a person.
Okay, so what we've learned about Brandon is he is no fan of Betty White, and he's no fan of Patrick Dempsey.
I am not a fan of Patrick Dempsey at all. McDreamy can burn in hell.
See, this is the only thing I really remember ever watching him in that comes to mind. I'm not
Transformers?
a fan of... was he in that?
In the third one. I was happy that he died.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Let's say if you have not seen Transformers 3 in the 10 years it's been out, then you're doing it's.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the ending of Can't Buy Me Love. By the way, this will probably be a spoiler intensive episode.
Oh yeah.
If you're about to hear, something, then you're like, I haven't watched it yet, then by all means, you might want to either skip this one or, turn the volume down for a few seconds until you think it's safe to come back. But spoilers for the ending of a movie from 1987. Well, let me get into what the plot is. This nerd, by the way, widest movie I've ever seen. The idea of diversity included, quote, nerds and cools. It's like, that's it. That's their diversity. Those are their clashing groups, nerds and cools. And that's exactly the terminology used in the movie. Well, this one nerd saw the captain of the cheerleaders or whatever in trouble because doing her popular kid thing, she ruined an outfit of her mom's and needed to get it replaced. And of course, he wants to buy a telescope. And there's a big sign that says $1,000 on it. And while he's looking at the telescope, he sees her across the mall, and above the outfit that she needs to buy is a fairly accurate, a similar sign to the $1,000 telescope, and it says $1,000 over the chest. So of course, he sees her in need. He wants to get close to her, and he's willing to spend $1,000 to do it. What winds up happening is he makes a deal with her to. She has to pretend to be his girlfriend for a month, because his thought process is if she does this, he'll get in with the cool kids. He'll become one of the in crowd by association, just simply by association. And what happens is you find out he's right. They think that they're dating, and it works like a charm. He becomes one of the cool guys, and eventually he's kind of leading the pack. If you recall the episode of Family Matters where everybody was doing the Urkel,
Oh yeah.
a similar thing happens
wow.
where they're at the school dance and he starts like having spasms, and at first, some of the kids are like, oh, he must be one of the special ed kids. But then another couple next to him's like, oh, well, if he's doing it, it must be the cool new thing. So what I will say in this mediocre movie was very clever to see the high angle shot of the dance floor, where it starts off with just him doing it, this spasmy dance, and then his date starts doing the dance, and then the couple next to him starts doing the dance, and every time they cut to that shot, the dance is spreading like a virus. Everybody just starts getting in on having convulsions, on the dance floor. And that's when the original girl, at this point they broke up, and he was still popular. That's when the original cheerleader girl was like, oh, wow, my friends are morons, and they really will follow whoever they think is popular. They're a bunch of sheep. And I believe I'm probably one of the few people on the air anywhere that's using that term correctly. But I digress. The movie goes on, blah, blah, blah. They're at a big party. And the whole time she's had a boyfriend that went off to college. Of course, not weird at all, right? And the boyfriend comes back home for New Year's and finds out that she had been dating this guy. And so the cheerleader comes clean, and he's like, what, you got paid to go out this guy? So you're a whore, And yeah, that's that's what happens at the party, and everybody finds out. He becomes a complete social outcast, and she kind of hates him because, one, he's being a total douchebag. Ever since he got his popularity, he just became a total douchebag. Even to her, he stole her poetry to tell another girl, and she overheard it. And she's like, I wrote those beautiful words, and now he's using them to woo a sheep. That's just great. And then during the breakup, he got really personal in their staged breakup. And yeah, he was just a jerk. Cut to the end of the movie where he's going back to mowing lawns. That's how he got the $1,000 to begin with. He works hard. He's a nerd. He's smart. He's hardworking. He's at his essence, he's a good guy, and seems to have learned his lesson about popularity and the price and things like that. So she sees him. It seems like they've made up, they've made peace, and there's been this connect between the nerds and the cools that they could, coexist. The nerds could help the cools with the homework, and the cools can help the nerds, just be a little bit cooler. And they go their separate ways in the end. She gets in the car with her friends, and they drive off, and he hops on his lawnmower, and I'm like, yeah, that's the way it should be, because the way he acted does not, constitute any kind of the guy gets the girl ending at all. So, okay, in this, as I said before, mediocre movie, it was, I thought, an incredibly cool, somewhat original ending, especially for the era where, it's always the guy gets the girl, the nerd gets the girl. And I was quite content with the ending, and I was gonna give it a pretty good rating. But then the film just doesn't have the decency to end, because you hear the car come back. She jumps out of the car and jumps onto the lawnmower, and they literally ride off into the sunset.
Like on the lawnmower?
On the lawnmower.
Wow. Okay.
Now, that made me think of, wow, they had the ball. They were so close, and then they just completely dropped it at the 5-yard line. For those football fans out there, I'm sure you'll appreciate the analogy. And it made me think, what other movies have come close just to, drop it? What movies stuck the landing? And I figured, why not? Let's get Brandon in on this conversation and really get, the conversation going. Whew. I said a mouthful there. So Can't Buy Me Love, it came so close, but in the end, I just didn't think it earned the ending that it got. And you might hear that a lot about how a story can earn its ending. And basically what that means is everything in a story is supposed to lead up something. Everything in a movie is supposed to lead up to that finality.
Yeah.
And to earn the proper ending, you have to build up to it. To me, this built up to a good, peaceful coexistence resolution, but not exactly a happy ending for the two involved, as far as romance. So that's why I didn't feel like that was earned.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like you are going to be watching this movie immediately, yeah?
No. Still, no interest. It's like drive me crazy. I don't care about those. She's All That drove me nuts. Like, yeah, I never got into those kind of movies. Like all the teeny drama movies, even from when we were younger. I
Mhm.
couldn't stand them. So I have very gladly always avoided them.
I've been on a kick of 80s movies lately. At some point, maybe when I hit my 100th movie, when whatever, we can talk about all the movies that I've watched this year so far. That was just one of them, and I'm sure a lot of the movies from the list will probably be talked about since I've watched them recently over the last 57 days. So why don't you go ahead and get us really started off with endings, and begin with endings, Brandon. What do you like to see? What is the most important element that you want to see in an ending? Interesting points, but if you're talking, I can't hear you. All right, then I'll go ahead and talk about what
Can you hear
I'm
me
looking
okay?
for.
Is that better?
Oh, much better, much better.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I went for a walk in the neighborhood here. It's just like, everyone. I'm on my phone tonight. Laptop is whatever. So I don't have a leash tonight. So I decided to go for my little stroll. No. So like with me, what I was saying is like, what I think makes a good ending is like a logical close point, not like numerous other closure points. Give it an ending. Just end it. When you get to that, end it. Don't try to be hip or shot trendy or anything like that. And a great example, I have actually two examples, but I'll just go with one. Well, no, I'll say two. I'll say both of them because like it'll be brief. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This whole movie just builds up. It just really. And I like the movie itself. I love the meat of this movie. It was like, I mean, it was pretty good for what it was. Yeah, they're kicking each other's asses. They're trying to take the other person out. It really was like I was curious how they're going to wrap it up. Like I was looking forward to this ending, and it's this whole syndicate, right, that hired them, that turned them on each other. Well, I mean, the syndicates have like heads, like a board that they have to deal with, or at least like a top person. You never see this person. It ends with them in a warehouse taking out a bunch of goons, being like doing the whole marital teamwork thing, and you know, smiling at each other once in a while, but like really kicking some serious ass. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I can't wait to see who's like behind the curtain here. Who's the Wizard of Oz here? Who's doing all this stuff? You never see it. You never see it because it cuts right from that fight to them in marriage counseling talking about, oh, ask me about sex. Like, oh, that's a good ending. I left the theater pissed off, absolutely pissed. But the one that really blew my mind, and I will always bring this movie up whenever I think about like a bad ending, is Titanic. My God, such a horrible ending. Bill Paxton is like this guy that's trying to discover what was it, like the jewel, like the jewel of the ocean or whatever. I forget
Something
the name
like
of
that.
the
The
necklace.
diamond of the sea, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But the old woman has it, and so I guess like the theatrical version, yeah, she throws it back in the ocean.
Oops.
I mean, this guy's got investors. This guy has investors. He had to convince. He even says in the movie that he had to convince people to let him keep doing this. She probably just ended his career. I mean, just like she didn't want to share the door with Leonardo DiCaprio. She doesn't want this guy to advance. So now I have a feeling like she just hates men. But in the alternate ending for this, which I'm happy they never did, Bill Paxton finds out that she has this treasure, this jewel that he's been searching for. And she tells him that material possessions never bring you happiness. Well, he's not doing this to like be rich. He's not doing this to keep the damn thing. He's doing it like Indiana Jones style. It belongs in a museum. It's a long lost artifact. She places it in his hands because, once again, she hates men. She's sadistic. And she slowly pulls it out of his hands. Like, he's got his hands on the chain. He could have just yoked that thing right out of her. Like, she couldn't fight back. She's like, 100 years old. God, I'm horrible. But the thing is still.
It's true.
It's like stealing candy from a geriatric person. But the thing is that, like, he could have easily, like, she could have just given it to him because, again, he made it clear. I have these investments I have to protect. Nope. Just whatever. They could have ended the movie just with her giving him this jewel and saying that she's carried it with her for years and yada yada yada. Let's make some kind of sentimental speech and give it to him. But we didn't get that. It's just the ending really, I don't know why it bothers me so much. So for me, it's like, it's logic. Use logic. Don't be lazy with your writing. Don't try to be artsy, trendy, beautiful, or whatever. Just come up with a damn ending.
I mean, there is a place for that kind of trickery, but I completely agree with you on Titanic. I don't know if you watch SNL, but many years ago, Bill Paxton hosted, and they had some sort of alternate ending or something like that for Titanic, where he finds out that she throws the jewel overboard, and he just starts strangling her and beating the crap out of her.
That's horrible, but yeah, like that.
So at least somebody, especially someone from the movie, acknowledged that that was not great.
It's just, I mean, okay. Look at like horror films, okay? Not just like where they're fighting a slasher. I'm talking about like the supernatural horror films. Darkness Falls, Mama, which I guess Mama would actually not really fit in this category that I'm about to speak of, but they always beat the demon. They always beat the supernatural force of which they cannot comprehend its origins or its nature.
Mm-hmm.
They always beat it. Darkness Falls. So, like, you see this guy in the movie, like, loading up flashlights like he's loading up guns. I mean, it's been years since I've seen the movie for a reason, but, it's like one of those things where they managed to defeat this quote-unquote tooth fairy, I believe it as they called her. All these movies with like these supernatural entities, they always best the demon. They always banish the demon. They always destroy the demon. It's rare to come across a movie, which is why I said Mama doesn't really fall in that line to me, nor Grudge, where they actually, they can't beat it. If that makes sense. Like, it's like they lose somehow. Like Mama, it's kind of like a half one because the little girl still died. This ghost still claimed the life of this little girl, brought her into the afterlife with her. Meantime, the older sister has to watch her sister die, which is also equally, to me, disturbing. Saw had the first Saw had an amazing ending to me for a horror film. It wasn't torture porn at the time, so, it was just like more like an actual psychological, thriller horror kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the ending of the movie, it ends with Jigsaw telling Adam, the key to your chains were in the bathtub. Walks out the door, Adam starts screaming, and then like Jigsaw says, "Game over." We don't know if the doctor bled out or not. So he says, "Game over." Slides the door shut, and it's just a black screen with credits rolling, no music, and all you hear is Adam screaming in absolute terror. The best ending to any of the Saw movies in the franchise to me. And actually, the best ending to me, like, over many other films. Like, horror films are meant to end in a way that I think should be hopeless. There shouldn't be a winning situation. Seven ended perfectly to me. Bad guys still won.
have you seen 1973's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark?
Yep. Much better than the remake. Much better than the remake.
Now, I never saw the remake, but when I saw the original, it was I don't even know. I was very split on how they ended it, because on the one hand I'm like, oh no, the demons, whatever they little creatures were, they got her. They took her into the fireplace or the furnace, whatever it was. They got her. The bad guys won. But as I thought about it, I was like, well, her husband treated her like crap. Her best friend thought she was nuts. And all these little demon things wanted her to do was be with her and basically worship her. So in the end, I was like, maybe she's better off, being sucked down into the abyss with the monsters. And that was a very conflicting ending for me. And although the conflict made me think it was absolutely hilarious. But the fact of the matter is, it was supposed to be a horror movie, and they did exactly what you said. And, I guess the bad guy, the traditional bad guy, won in that sense, rather than, going off with the I survived, and, we're going to get through this and whatnot. They went with a very decisive ending that did not leave. There was no room for interpretation. Bam. The person you've been freaking out over these little things for the last over an hour or so got taken, and it's done.
Yeah. And basically, that ending is different. I remember that ending very well, and that's why I like it, because it is one of those. Now, whether or not the family suffered her disappearance is one thing, but okay, Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth. It was a heartbreaking ending, but it was also such a happy ending. Which I really appreciate what it did, because it came full circle. It ended the movie. It actually ended everything. It wrapped it up perfectly to me. It's so I really enjoyed that. But now with the remake of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, the CGI heavy ones with Katie Holmes' absolutely astounding acting abilities. God, hard to say that with a straight face. But in that one, it's not the little girl that gets sucked down into the vent and goes into the underworld with these creatures. These creatures aren't there to worship her. These creatures survive off of children's teeth. They want her teeth. That's all they want. They don't worship her at all. They want to kill her and eat her teeth. Katie Holmes and Guy Pearce play the father and the stepmother. Guy Pearce is a shitty father. It's not like he's a bad father to the girl, but he's very dismissive. Katie Holmes starts believing her a little bit, but she doesn't. But at the end of the movie, Katie Holmes goes down to rescue the girl from these creatures as they're dragging her tied up and everything. They're dragging her into the vent. Katie Holmes goes down there. She kills a few of them, and then she rescues her. And as she's rescuing her, she's standing in front of the vent. And the rope that they have tightens up, snaps her shins in half backwards, and they pull her into the vent, where the little girl's crying and screaming. And Guy Pearce comes down. Now all of a sudden, Guy Pearce knows that this is all a real thing. I think he might have figured it out beforehand. It's been years. I saw what it came out 2007 or 6, something like that. Never wanted to see it again because it was just so dumb to me.
Mm-hmm.
But and then the ending is where you hear her voice, while they're well, now we just have to wait. It's and you hear her voice, so now she's one of these demons, I guess. She gets turned into one of these demons, and she's yes, we will wait. We have all the time in the world. little girl goes back there with Guy Pearce. She puts her drawing in the house, like puts her drawing down at the doorstep of the house. It gets sucked into the house, and it just floats the entire house. Goes downstairs to the basement, and then it gets sucked into the, what do you call it? The little furnace thing. I mean, it's just like one of those things. Like, again, the ending is the most crucial part of a film. You should always build up to the ending. There's tons of movies that have, like, what would you say is, okay, like my idea of a good ending is logic. Give me a logical ending that brings everything full circle and perfectly wraps up the story. I mean, Ghostbusters, I love Ghostbusters, but that's not one of those movies. Ghostbusters ends in a way where it's like, well, okay, well, it ended. There were some plot holes in it, but it ended. Ghostbusters 2 picks up, which I didn't understand, which kind of like negated the whole ending, where everyone's watching a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man stomping through Midtown Manhattan, saying, "Oh, it's all you guys made it all up." Like, it made no sense to me. But what are your ideas? Like, what is your idea of like a good ending versus like a bad ending?
Well, and I'm the one that's had time to think about this. Well, coming full circle is a good way to do it. Having some logic behind it. If it's a one-shot movie, I would definitely want fewer questions than answers at the end. In fact, I want to see all of my questions answered by the end of the movie. For the most part, there are very few people that can pull off the ambiguous ending to leave the audience, kind of wondering. The first one that comes to mind that did it pretty well is Inception.
Okay. Like the spinning top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The spoilers for Inception.
Oh God, come on.
It's a movie. It's a movie about a guy that works in dreams, right? And they go down multiple levels into a dream within a dream within a dream, and the question is asked: how do you know when you're out? So they have these totems that have a very specific weight to them that only they know. No one's allowed to touch them. And Leo's character in the movie has a little top that he can just spin and know that if he's in his dream or if he's in reality, it'll do what it's supposed to do, physics-wise. But if he's in somebody else's dream, it'll just spin forever. What happens? Well, he finally gets what he wants at the end, and the final shot is him just spinning the top and walking away. He doesn't care whether it's reality or not. He just wants to be where he is, no matter what. And the final shot is of a close-up of the top spinning. So they don't show you that it topples. They don't show you that it goes on forever, or that it even goes on for an unusual amount of time to make to indicate that it's going to go on forever. It just spins, close up, walk away, fade to black.
Yeah.
And
that
was one of those movies
that
did the ambiguous ending really well. I can't really recall a perfect example of ones that didn't do an ambiguous ending very well. But those are the movies that you watch and you're like, what, that's it? And the first thing that pops in your mind is, well, what happened with this? What happened with this? And there's nothing else coming.
Wait, see, there was Little Shop of Horrors, the 1980s version, the musical version, actually had a pretty good. The theatrical cut had a pretty well done ambiguous ending, because it ends with another little man-eating plant looking back at the camera and smiling. So you don't know what
Yeah.
the future is. But now, if you actually see the director's cut of it, I don't know if you ever have. You have Audrey 2 has multiplied, and now there's a whole bunch of giant meeting plants eating people, tearing through the cities, and everything else. Which I still think was a badass ending, but Little Shop of Horrors had a pretty decent, little moment of ambiguity, whatever the hell it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
I think what most movies, we can't leave out TV shows because TV shows are notorious for either ending well or ending poorly,
Or not at all.
Or not at all.
Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles.
My name is
Fox,
Earl.
I'm looking right at you guys. You crushed me with that ending. John Connor going into the future and just, we're going to cancel now.
My name is Earl. Oh, we got these DNA results back. To be continued.
Canceled. Oh, man. Yeah, Grey's Anatomy is still in the air.
Yeah. I
don't know
really
how.
Liked My Name is Earl, but no, I've completely lost my train of thought on that. Just to go to the next note I have on here, I'm gonna completely crap on some more Gen Xers' childhoods. 16 Candles. It's on my short list of movies that haven't aged well. And it's not even for the obvious reasons. I know a lot of people are not so keen on Long Duck Dong, the Asian character, as he's portrayed in the movie. But personally, I'm like, he is the coolest guy in the movie. His name is really stupid, but as far as guys that I want to hang out with, he's the one. What I really hated about watching 16 Candles was the fact that she ends up with the wrong guy. Do you remember 16 Candles at all, or is this one of those that haven't crossed your path? Mm-hmm. Okay, seem to have lost Brandon for a moment again.
Really? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
What the hell is going? Sorry, apparently there are some dead spaces around here. No, I was going to say it's been years since I've seen 16 Candles, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree with you on that one.
She winds up with a guy that only gets interested in her after intercepting a note that's like, I would totally do him. And he's like, she would totally do me. But who is she? Let's find out. And that's when he gets interested in her. And while he has a girlfriend, by the way. And,
yep.
And he's also totally cool with, the nerdy guy, the geek taking his girlfriend home and essentially date raping her. He's cool with that, which is just weird on so many levels. And the fact that he is supposed to be the guy that all the girls want at the end of the movie. Everyone's supposed to want her to end up with him, and when she does, I'm like, this is just stupid.
Yep.
He acknowledges her birthday. And I get how that's important, especially a 16th birthday, but there are no redeeming qualities about this guy whatsoever that should make you want them to be together after everything that's happened in this movie. And yet I love me some classic 80s teen comedies, but This one just totally missed the mark, in my opinion, as far as its ending goes. John Hughes is, for lack of a more accurate word, he's a brilliant writer. But this one
was a brilliant writer.
This one, it does not stand the test of time. It does not stand the changing of the cultures, and quite frankly, I should be flabbergasted that this was ever a thing for people to be into and root for. And then I realize, yeah, that's a lot of the '80s of representation of the culture, with doing whatever it takes to get yours. Whether it's dressing up as Darth Vader and having sex with your rival's girl, which is bad.
Rape. Rape.
or telling the geek, hey, take my girlfriend home, and you can fool around, and the geek is like, but she's drunk. And he's like, so?
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, like, that was so acceptable, and people laughed at that. So, like, I'm looking at, but you can still watch these movies and enjoy them if you understand the humor that was popular at that point in time. Like for me, like one of the ones that always caught me off guard. God, it was on my tongue. Damn it, I lost it. God, what movie was that? Can't think of the name of it. Can't even think of the plot now. I lost it completely. There were so many movies that came up. I guess the point is there were so many films that came out over the years where they're all. Oh, that's right. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's what I'm thinking of. Ferris Bueller was a horrible person. He's a horrible friend. No, he's a horrible friend. He's an absolutely horrible person, and everyone loved him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mean, the only person worse than him in that film was like the psychotic principal. But I mean, it's just like with him though. I get the ending, like, Cam accepts that like his father's going to love his car more than him, so he has his momentary freak out where he kicks this car, but he convinces Cam to come with him. And he treats his friend as if he is the third wheel the entire time when he's just really trying to get laid. Like, oh, life is too short for this. Life is too short for this. Like, Ferris, save it. Like, in a few years, you're going to kill somebody anyway. So, this.
Ouch.
I don't care. But I haven't said the F word yet.
You talk about Matthew Broderick, but don't mention the pederasty of the principal.
Listen, Inspector Gadget needs to learn how to drive, okay? That's all there is to it. But now, this whole movie, the ending is not a great ending to me because of the fact that you don't know what Cam's fate is. It's made very clear that his father is a very neglectful father.
Cam was murdered
doesn't care.
That day.
That was an expensive fucking car that he just hurled out that window into the trees. But I mean, it's just like you have a friend who is supportive so long as you can actually fill his the needs that he has. That's Ferris Bueller right there. He's a friend of yours if you can actually indulge him in his spontaneity. But no, like a lot of those movies from the 80s. So I mean, a lot of their endings and everything else. I mean, Christ, man. Short Circuit. It ended with oh god, it's been years. I'm pretty sure didn't Short Circuit end with him being back in her care behind the back of the military?
What had happened was they were cornered. Steve Guttenberg, his character, was finally convinced that Johnny Five was sentient. And whatever God wants, he keeps. It's a joke I tell to this day. So they're cornered, and I don't even think it's the military. I think it's just that company's private army.
That tech company.
And my first question is, why the hell do they have an army?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those. I mean, listen, you can't ask questions like that because if you look back at other movies, a lot of movies miss a lot of logic, and they can be good movies. Now, never mind the fact that I forget the actor's name that portrayed the white guy that portrayed an Indian guy. Again, some things don't age well.
That was Fisher Stevens.
But yeah, I mean, laying that Middle Eastern accent on pretty damn thick in that movie. But he actually did a damn good job. I gotta say it, he did a damn good job. But I was watching Money Talks the other day with Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen. Okay,
that movie's just looking back
loaded
nuts throughout.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, they recognize Chris Tucker in a diner full of people.
Yep.
And they instantly just pull their guns out and start shooting. Freeze! And before he can even do anything, they're firing their guns at him.
Yeah.
In a diner full of people. And then he's running down the street. They're firing their guns down the street. Like, it's like one of those things like, wow. Like, okay, that's a excessive force.
Definitely noticeable.
No, Chris Tucker had just stayed there and gotten shot one time. He would have been free to go. He would have been golden. But what I'm saying is, like, you look back at these movies, the inconsistencies or the outright what the fuckery that's happening. There's my one. That's happening in these movies. Like you said, with 16 Candles. Happy birthday. Oh, she's swooning over him now because he remembered her damn birthday. The guy's a douche canoe the entire movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But you know what? I'm going to double back down to Short Circuit. To the ending of that. They're cornered. We see them blow up, the robot. And as the good doctor and the sandwich lady are driving off, all sad, Johnny Five pops up from behind the back seat, and he's like, "Yo, I built a robot replica of myself, and I faked my death. Let's go party." And then they drive off into the sunset. Oh, spoilers for Short Circuit. Although, if you haven't seen it by now, I'm not sure this is the podcast for you. You definitely need to watch that. It's a Steve Guttenberg classic. Not so much Short Circuit 2. It's like Short Circuit 2 was, people seem to like Fisher Stevens' character, so let's make the movie about him. And yeah, that as we mentioned before, Fisher Stevens is probably one of the top 10 whitest guys of the past.
Well, yeah, he played one. But he played one of the guys from Super Mario Brothers, the movie. He played Iggy, I think, like one of the two characters based like the henchman for Bowser, or King Koopa rather, President Koopa, whatever the hell they call him. Such a horrible movie. Oh, God. But like either way, he is one of the guys.
While they were making it.
No, I know. Like on top of the really horrible director duo that took over and all that stuff, like the constant rewrites that made the actors not want to remember their lines, and no, the whole movie just sucked. But you know what? They destroyed any chance of Nintendo trusting anyone with their properties ever again. But the thing is, he's like the whitest of the white guys. All they did, they Tropic Thundered him, basically. That's what they did with him in Short Circuit. They painted his skin, dyed his hair black, and told him to speak with a foreign accent. That's it.
It's like if Hank Azaria, doing Apu from The Simpsons was offensive. I can only imagine what people were saying about this.
This was Hank Azaria doing his character from oh god, what is it called? The Birdhouse,
Mystery Men?
the Birdcage.
Oh,
You know, playing Aguador.
yeah. It was live action. A poo.
That's so bad. I mean, it was a well done job. Just
Oh yeah. I guess it's just you know. Have you seen any movies recently?
I actually, you know what? I posted this on I posted this the other night. I was watching I Care a Lot. That was on Netflix,
No, I haven't seen that.
and it's yeah. I feel like I misjudged it. I was a little drunk when I watched it the first time, so I missed a few things in it. But I just annihilated. Like I just posted about like how it's lazy writing, no research, no nothing. I'm like, I went back. I'm like, well, you know what? I got called out for this, which happens a lot in movie addiction because people are very opinionated there. But you know what? I will say for once, this was very justifiably so. I went back, I rewatched it sober, paid attention. I'm like, okay, no, this is actually very well researched. This shit does actually happen. But there's a whole like cat and mouse thing here, and it's like the Russian mob is trying to get rid of this social worker. The whole movie is about this woman who makes money off of being the caretaker for people who she puts in nursing homes because they're like a danger to themselves or whatever. She drugs them up, she puts them in nursing homes, and she pretty much drains their accounts. Shells their assets to pay herself. I mean, it really is a horrible thing, but it's something that actually does happen. It's a whole scam. But the woman who she pretty much takes over, is like this. I'm not going to get into the ending, but it was actually a decent ending. This is a movie that actually started with a situation and ended with where you think that she's going to get one up. It ends with the beginning of the movie situation coming full circle to bite her in the ass. But the meat of the story is like these two characters of oh god, what is his name? He was in what do you call it? X-Men, Days of Future Past. He was in Game of Thrones. So the little person dude. He was an elf. God, what was his name?
Because you want me to tell you, I of course can't remember what it is.
That's fine. But the thing is like he plays like this member of like the Russian mafia.
Mm-hmm.
His mom is the person who gets pretty much taken into custodial care and gets put in a nursing home, who gets put on drugs and all this other happy horse shit. And it's just this whole cat and mouse game of him trying to kill her. I'm like, if you're trying to kill her, just kill her. Like they have multiple chances to do it. They're always trying to make it look like an accident. Like, listen, put a bullet in her damn head, throw her in the ocean, tie something to her feet, call it a day. They'll never find her. If you're in the mob, get creative. Pull out her teeth, cut off her fingers, get rid of any way of them identifying her. Get rid of the body. Dispose of everything in different areas. Get rid of it. They don't do that. They have to because like any movie, they have to make mistakes so she keeps coming back. But it's just like it's one of those deals where it's just like it just kind of got old to me. And then of course like the end. But I mean, it's like aside from that, I think so. It just came out. But then like I said, when the ending came up, you think it's going good, and then something happens to where, it actually ends in a respectable way. I won't spoil the ending because it's only been on Netflix for I think like a few short weeks now. So I'll let our guests and listeners get a chance to listen or watch this movie. I would say watch it. It is worth it. I was harsh with it, but I was wrong. But
Well, I have a movie that kind of falls along the same timeline as far as release date, so was I was really iffy about even bringing it up because it is a newer movie. But I'll do what you did. I won't go into any spoilers. But have you seen? Excuse me. Have you seen The Little Things?
No.
Okay. Well, The Little Things is one of those movies that I believe was released on HBO Max with the WB deal, where it's co-releasing on HBO Max as well as theaters.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a crime thriller type deal with Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. There's a serial killer going around. Denzel Washington is a cop that happens to... He's a cop in the boonies that's got to do something in the city. And Rami Malek is, a young, kind of up-and-coming detective. And, decides to pick Denzel's brain about this serial killer case. And Denzel gets invested in what's going on. They pretty early on, they're like, yeah, we think it's the Jared Leto character.
Yeah.
What people wind up talking about most, though, when they talk about this movie is the ending. I'm not going to say what kind of ending it is or what happens because, like I said, still kind of fresh, but it has an ending that I understand what the director was going for, and I want to say that it fits everything that was portrayed throughout as far as the quality goes. So it's not like it drastically dropped the ball. It kept its tone throughout, whether you like it or whether you don't. You're gonna whoa.
You okay?
I'm getting a lot of static
On my end?
Sure.
No? Okay.
Just really bad.
Well, if it means anything, I don't hear it. I only hear any static.
Okay, I think it settled down. But anyway, The Little Things. The ending is definitely conversation worthy, and it would be a conversation that I'd like to have on the show at some point. But I will say that I kind of called it. There's a certain thing that happens, and in my head, I'm thinking, well, the only way any of this makes sense is if this happens, and then it happens, and I'm like, I don't know whether to feel proud that I was right, or upset that I was right. And it's a weird thing because you see it coming, but you don't see it coming. So that's yeah. I'll leave it at that. I fear if I say anything else, I'm going into really unwarranted, or unwanted information territory for those people that still haven't had a chance to watch it. But The Little Things is going to be a movie. If it's remembered it's going to be remembered mostly for its ending. But I will say, nope, that's a new movie too. Crap, I've been watching a lot of new movies. Bliss with Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek, that has a funky ending.
Hmm.
I want to think of a really, really grand ending. You know what? I'm just gonna go with Infinity War. You
Okay.
knew that there was another Avengers movie coming with Endgame, although we didn't know the title at the time of Infinity War's release. But Infinity War added new language to the lexicon. It created memes out the wazoo. It put the snapping into the world
Yeah.
because it kind of, even though it was slowly building up to this, not just because of the one movie, but yeah, Infinity War really stressed, you know, the importance of Thanos and his power and yada yada yada. But when it came to that moment, when it came to the you should have aimed for the head, and then credits. It's like, wait, what? What just what? This is the that's the what? And it left you so hungry for more. And I know we said that when it comes to a movie ending, you should have your questions answered. And I think Infinity War did a great job answering a lot of questions, but it also left you wanting more, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I
At
mean,
least
that
when
was
it
the
comes
point
to
of it,
these
though.
movies, when you know there's going to be more.
I mean, that was the point of that movie, though, because it was a part one of a part two.
And it was
You see, the only
done
th- the only thing
so
that
well.
the only the only thing that was anticlimactic about that is that you knew for a fact that there was going to be a Black Panther 2 at some point, and so like T'Challa and all that stuff, like you knew that there was going to be a part 2. Now we of course we didn't know that Chadwick Boseman would actually pass away, but we did know that there was going to be a sequel, that they had already announced that there was going to be a sequel to the first one, so you knew it was going to happen. Just like with Ant-Man, you knew there was going to be a sequel, but at the point you also didn't know if Ant-Man was killed or not. You didn't really get that answer until at the end of Ant-Man. No, I'm sorry, Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's right. I'm sorry. Um, but I mean, the thing is that I mean, there's a lot of movies actually end things on like interpretation, leaving questions that you don't really get answered, but you kind of respect how they ended things. Like I mentioned this to you before we did the show, but No Country for Old Men. Um, Javier Bardem, is that his name? Um, God, I can't think of his name. Javier something, but with him, like he plays this assassin. He gets the money. He gets away. Um, the only two people left in this movie are him and Tommy Lee Jones. But like for the movie it is, like it was actually for us to see like a movie where this person that you think is going to be brought down actually gets away scot free. And to bring it back up again, same thing happened with Seven. The guy doesn't, Kevin Spacey's character doesn't, like John Doe doesn't get away scot free. He dies, but he gets what he wants. Like he fulfills that circle he set out to create. Um, and then you're left just seeing like the aftermath of like Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, and like they're disconnected at that point because now Morgan Freeman has to be the detective who was in fact on the verge of retiring, and now he's got to bring in, you know, I forget if it was his partner or somebody who was training as a replacement, but you know, Brad Pitt's broken. Gwyneth Paltrow dies, which I'm good with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just like it was a heartbreaking ending, but it was actually a very beautiful, well done ending. It left some questions like, hey, what's going to happen to him now? You know, can he just plead insanity and get out? I mean, either way, his career's over. I mean, shot a guy point blank to the head, unloaded his clip on the guy. But then, like going back to movies like we were talking about earlier, what was it? I was watching the Boondock Saint movies the other day. This is a series I should have stopped after the first one because the second one was a polar. It was a completely different, like completely different type of movie. Yeah, it was very comedy centric,
Yeah.
whereas the first one was really not at all. It had funny moments, but it wasn't meant to be like a straight up comedy. This one was like just nothing but. He even had like cartoon noises in it for Christ's sake. But you go back into that movie like where it ended with them being like looking at everyone like when they were staring at them and it's just like Norman Reedus is kind of doing the whole finger gun thing. What's his face? He's shaking his finger no. And this is already like almost 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago this movie came out. I mean, it's just like they're left you with so many more questions. And it's, I don't think there's even anything about Saints 3 coming out at all. Like, I think it's just like stuff at that one. Really for the ending. But anywho, what else we got? What about the Red Policy about right now?
I'm having a hard time understanding you, Brandon. Your phone
No.
is just.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Well, I think it's probably like a good idea to probably like wrap this, buddy. Just because I'm trying to find a space where I can actually do this, and it ain't happening.
Well, I think we hit a pretty wide swath of different types of endings. The only one we really didn't go into was probably the most traditional of, hero saves the day and, that's it.
It's because it's just because it's overdone. It's to me, it's not even really worth talking about because it's just you see it all the time.
Yeah, it's understandably, it is the most satisfying, way to end a hero story, which makes the other types of ending all the more special and makes us appreciate them even more. So I think we should close this with a little bit of advice to writers that, are trying to figure out how to end their stories. I think the first bit, don't twist something that doesn't need to be twisted. If you don't have your ending in mind already, there's no reason to try and shake things up at the last second. Personally, I like the idea of, I call it the old school wrestling approach because it is kind of how things worked back in the day. You figured out what the last step is, and then you kind of build towards that. And I think that's an excellent way to put stories together. Start with the ending. And figure out what steps you need to take to get there. And if you have an idea for a twist, just make sure you have it in mind for the whole time, because the best twist endings are the ones that kind of hint at the twist ending. I think out of all of the M. Night Shyamalan movies, where it's become basically, what's the twist going to be? What's the twist going to be? And it seems like for the longest time he was like, oh, I guess I got to come up with a twist. But The Sixth Sense, I think, did it to almost absolute perfection, as far as twist endings go, because at the end, you come to the realization, right? And then, yeah, maybe it got a little hand-holdy, just taking you back, showing you exactly what you missed because you weren't thinking about it. Probably would have gotten a lot more second run or second viewings on the initial run if they just revealed and didn't bother taking you back throughout the whole movie and saying, haha, you missed it, sucker. But either way, it nailed the twist because it was telling you the whole time that it was coming. So if you have an inkling of wanting to do a twist ending, make sure that not too cliche-y. Go back and book in this whole thing. Earn it. Earn the damn twist. So that would be my first bit of advice. Brandon, do you... Okay. My second bit of advice, don't be a downer just for the sake of being a downer. Again, your ending has to be earned. If you need to have the hero, ride off into the sunset, sure. That's an absolutely appropriate ending. But there are some writers out there that I'm not going to, go into naming right now, that feel the only way to make an impact with their characters is to just willy-nilly murder them or have them die off or make the ending so depressing that the only thing people will talk about is the ending and how it came from nowhere. And I don't mean a twist, but, just a downer. Infinity War earned its downer ending. So many people just poofed. There are a lot of other movies that don't earn their downer ending. That seems very gratuitous. So once again, falling under the earn it category, just don't do something for the sake of doing it. Make it make sense. Like Brandon said at the top of the show and throughout, there has to be some logic to it. It has to come from somewhere. American Beauty, excellent movie. Starts off the rip with, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to die. Kind of, throws it out there at the jump. Does it take away from the movie? Not at all, because you're like, how? Why? What's going on? And honestly, you kind of forget that that's going to happen, and then bam, there it is. Brandon, are you back with us? No. Okay. Finally, if you think you're leaving your story open to interpretation, make sure you think twice about that. Think 3 times about that. Because you don't want to muddy up your story. You spent so much time building up towards this finale that if you can wrap it up, wrap it up. But if you're going for that ambiguous ending, like, and then she stares off into the sunset. Sunset got said a lot on this episode. Anyway, just go ahead. Just end it. Not every story has to be artsy fartsy. I don't know what the ending means. Bring some closure to people. Let people know you had to finish a story. That there is a place for an ambiguous ending, and it takes a delicate hand. So just think about it. That's really all I got for advice on endings. Make sure the right people end up together. Don't try to drastically change somebody at the last second. It's called a character arc for a second, for a reason. That's what the whole movie's for. You can't just, you can have everything like packed nice and neatly within the last 30 seconds, but that falls under, okay, I guess I need a solution to this problem, and the movie's almost over. So here you go. Kind of wish we talked about that a little bit earlier, to be honest. A little Deus Machina, and yeah. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say thank you all for joining us here tonight. It's this Friday night. And we are here each and every Friday night on the WADcast, right here, Facebook Live. And if you care to join us, if you want to partake in the chats during the show, by all means, like the WADcast on Facebook, like Semicore Studios on Facebook. We broadcast simultaneously through those. And if you are one of those people that wants to listen to whatever the hell you want, then don't forget, this podcast is available wherever all fine podcasts are sold, whether it's Beyond Pod, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify. It's on all of the major platforms, iHeartRadio. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and you'll be able to get us in your ear holes every week. And while you're at it, why don't you just leave a review, hit the old 5-star button, and subscribe, so you can definitely have those in your queue when you are ready to listen to us talk. There's probably a lot of other stuff I should get into as far as plugging, but you know what? Hit me up on Twitter at SkidComic. I think it's at Semicore Studios, at WADcast Pod. Go to thewadcast.com and check out all of our amazing features. And in fact, you'll find all of our social media links there. In the meantime, I want to wish everybody a good night, and this is the part where I play the music, but if you're on Facebook Live, you can't hear it. Oh. Brandon, BJacksman82. That's his Twitter. Yeah. I knew I'd remember it, but the music's playing, so this is when I say, hey, the only thing standing between you and your dreams is you. Get over yourself. Follow your dreams. Set your goals. Make 2021 the year that you get something done. Whether it's finishing that script, or auditioning for that role, or pulling together $1 million for that budget. Just do something. Because life is not going to wait for you. You have to get on board and do what you do yourself. So until next time, I'm Josh. Speaking for Brandon, when I say good night, and